It's not inside, it's underneath. I was going to say something to Richard because he was talking about us fellows with gray hair. He would normally use the word old fart, sorry ladies. But having shown my ignorance with a microphone, I can't do that. I would though like to digress a little bit and say something about WRSA as a whole. WRSA has been around a pretty long time. I can't even tell you how many years I've been involved. But I would like to say to you, I've never seen it so well and so professionally run. Gerard, you and Richard and your team have done an amazing job. I'm really proud to be associated with you. Perhaps one of the main failures that we as an industry have is to get our message across. You know, the word rewilding, and I had to reread the program when I saw bewildering to make sure it wasn't rewilding, is suddenly a buzzword all over the world. Perhaps the greatest, best known conservationist of all time, Attenborough, is the person expounding the idea of rewilding. But you guys have been doing it for the last 30 years. It's just that some clever fellow gave it a word. We got our message wrong. Richard, Gerard, and a big group of ours were at a meeting yesterday with DEF. I still call them DEF. Actually, DEFA now. And what we were exposed to in that meeting was absolutely and truly mind-bogglingly sad. There's such a lot of ignorance peddled, such a lot of rubbish spoken, and I have many other better words to use, but again, there's polite people here, so I won't necessarily use them. And so one of the really important things that we as an association need to do is to ensure that the right message is put across to the right people consistently. We've never really been very good at that because we like what we're doing and we do it. We forget about the fact that we need to ensure that other people understand what we do. Why have I been off the garden path in this sense? Why have I been talking about something that I'm not asked to talk about? Because I've been asked to talk about green or groen sebenza. It's a program that was introduced by DEF, Sanby actually, a subdivision of DEF. And the root of this program was unemployment, but unemployment of graduates or diplomats, I suppose, people with a diploma. They're not all diplomats nor diplomatic, but anyway. And people with a degree who are unemployed. They came up with the idea of green sebenza, and phase one, as I understand it, was SWEP. I think most of you know really what SWEP was about, but it was to gather information from the field. A large number of young graduates, people who have completed their diplomas, perhaps some of them, were taken at this stage so far to the Eastern Cape, to a large number of game farms, and to Limpopo. And there they gathered proper information from the field, from the ground, of what our industry is about. It's exactly what we need. We do have an idea of what the outcome is, but we don't have a formal document yet. I asked Roland Voorwerk from Sanby the other day, where is it going? Where is it? And he's still working on it, but I believe it's going to be incredibly valuable information for us. That's also going to be rolled out, as I understand it, to other provinces. I think Northwest, if I remember correctly, is the next one. Correct me if I'm wrong. And again, the collection of that information is absolutely critical, because that's what we need to be able to show the truth to the world. And if it comes from an offshoot, a puppy of death, then it's going to be that much more credible when we need to put it forward. The good job that we've been doing. The rewilding that we've been doing. But it's not enough. There's thousands of young conservationists out there who are unemployed, or in the words that they use, underemployed, meaning they're in a field not related to what they studied. So they came up with the idea of Green Sebenza Phase 2. Green Sebenza Phase 2. Wrong button, sorry. Is a new program that they've come up with, which is meant to bridge these or underemployed people into employment. They intend to employ, literally, via Sanby, 1,050 of these graduates. Don't ask me why 1,050. My mind works, 1,000, 1,500, but there's 50 stuck on there. Huh? And it's to place them in organizations where they can be employed for a period of 2 years, where they can develop a knowledge, a better knowledge, a practical knowledge of the jobs that are available, where they can develop their competencies and become confident in the management of environment and biodiversity. For me, this is critically important. And it's far more than giving people work. For me, what it's actually saying is, if we deal with these people properly, 21 of them have been allocated to WRSA, then we're going to have 21 advocates, people inside the conservation academia who understand what we do and who appreciate what we do. It's very important that we get conservationists to understand what we actually do and the good that comes from it. I have a theory about inbreeding. And our academia is very much inbred. Professor X will have a view. He was trained 50 years ago in the conventional thinking around, in this case, conservation. It's the same with all disciplines. Professor X has people that go through his schooling, training, and they get the understanding of what conservation is all about from him. And then they become lecturers and they teach the new students the same theory. In my mind, the same outdated theory. And then they become the professors and they train new people and the story just gets perpetuated. Here we have an opportunity to, although it's only 21, at least to have 21 of those people understand us and on our side. So of those 21 two-year internships, we're hoping to put 4 in the WRSA offices and 17 on game ranches. For the whole program, for the 1,050, there's a budget over the 2 years of 300 million rand allocated. Sounds a lot, but when you start dividing by 1,050, it suddenly goes down. So what do we wish to achieve? Wildlife Ranching, in partnership with SANBI, have put out an application. I think, Margareta, how many did you say were responded to? How many responses? Is she here? Xavier? So I think it was yesterday or the day before that we sent out the advertisement to prospective students. They have to be qualified. They have to have at least a diploma. And within 1 or 2 days, 490 applicants. It shows you the desperation out there. So the goals as a whole, from a SANBI point of view in particular, are work-based learning, i.e. put these people in a job, let them learn, and then they'll be more likely to get a job thereafter. Maybe on the same farm, maybe somewhere else, but at least they've got experience and maybe a CV to write up. Perhaps when game ranchers see what these people can do, they may say, oh, he's a good guy, we need to make position for him, i.e. create jobs. The next point is one that comes up in every single strategy of every single business, and in particular, every single thing that the government does. Transformation. It is important. There needs to be transformation. Because otherwise, it's just a old white man's industry. Who cares much about it? We need younger people. We need people of all races, all sexes, all religions, you name it, to be on our side. So transformation is important. And of course, we can use them in various ways. One of those is most definitely research. And those that will be here at WRSA will attend to admin and research in particular. But it doesn't mean that you can't do research on a farm if you would feel you'd like to do something. And I apologize for this slide because the only way this old man could do it was to take a photograph of the document and then send it to my email. But just so that you can see, there are specific fundamental disciplines that SANBI have identified, such as socio-economic transformation, such as conservation management, statistics gathering, tourism, game ranch management, and conservation management. So the first 4 dealing with socio-economic transformation of our industry and conservation management statistics gathering will be based here centrally. As you can see, they could have national diploma or a degree, and that means, sorry, a national diploma, national diploma or a degree, and that means they can earn a stipend paid by SANBI, anything from 6,000 to nearly 9,000 rands a month. They're employed by SANBI, allocated to us. The remaining 17 will be placed on ranches. So what we will now be doing, now that we've got applicants, 490 of them for 17 positions, sorry, 21 positions, will be to contact game ranchers interested in having an intern paid for by the government on the ranch. And this, again, their stipends are paid by the department, by SANBI. The candidates need certain criteria. They need to be a South African citizen. They must be young, unemployed or underemployed. And I explained before, underemployed basically means working, but not in the field that they've studied. So maybe he's working at, or she's working at Kentucky Chicken, but as a degree in conservation, that's underemployed. Obviously, we want innovative people. I'm not going to go into that. They must want to further their knowledge of the industry. They must have a qualification, which we've just discussed. And again, people with disabilities are favored. And they're the stipends. So if you have a student with a diploma, it's 6,000 odd, the BSc, 7,000 odd, honors degree, nearly 9,000, MSc, 10,000, and a PhD, 12. There's also, from SANBI, an operational budget of between 30 and 50,000 rands per student per year. That's meant to cover things like renting a laptop. So you don't, as a game rancher, have to buy the laptop for the person. SANBI will actually lease a laptop for him or her. Some of that would be for transport, perhaps. And maybe there's a specific tool that's required. If you want soil samples done, you might need an auger or whatever, and you might have to purchase such. So there would be an additional 30 to 50,000 rands available. Miguel will tell you that we spent 2.5 hours yesterday listening to the financial people from SANBI and the department to try and fully understand exactly how each and every thing has to work administratively. I can tell you it's not nearly as well explained as we heard just now from Milan. Miguel actually said to me this morning, well, they don't even know amongst themselves in some ways because they contradict themselves. So we're still busy and we need to ensure that we have exactly all the exact mechanisms by which you work. But one thing that was important is, let's just say you need to hire a vehicle for a month for this person, and you do so. The way that it'll work is you pay for it and then you claim from SANBI. There will be a very clear contract between the employer or the game rancher and SANBI for each of those individuals. Of course, there needs to be an approved mentor on the farm, or at least available to the student from around in the region. But that is not such a difficult job, because this is not meant to be an academic qualification. It's an on-the-job training qualification, if you like. So these individuals then will have, could be the farm manager. I could think of someone like Ruben Els, the manager on my farm. I couldn't think of anybody else better to give experience to a young person. And we would apply for him, for example, to be the mentor. And as I said, there'd be a contract. There were a lot of little items that we wanted to get some clarity on. So obviously those students or graduates going to the ranches would need to be housed on the ranch. Those here would need their own accommodation, those at WRSA. Meals, the student needs to at least organize it, pay for it. You don't actually need to have an office. If you've got a accommodation and Wi-Fi, you've basically got a workstation, and that's the terminology that they're now talking about. As far as transport is concerned, to and from the job, whether it's here into WRSA or not, or out on a farm, that's their responsibility. But obviously, if the person is doing work for you on your ranch, there needs to be some form of transport, if necessary, of course. Equipment, the student will provide his or her own mobile phone. The data for that phone could be paid for out of the 30 to 50,000 rands ops budget that they gave. Sanby will lease the laptops. I think I'm repeating myself now, and provide them. And then I mentioned the other equipment, but perhaps the most important is Wi-Fi connection or internet connection. So training is divided into accredited and non-accredited training. The non-accredited training is when it's not someone that's been accredited by SANBI. And as I mentioned, one needs to apply for a specific person to be an accredited trainer. One needs to have unit standards, i.e. this is what we're going to do, and that's what you basically get approved by SANBI themselves. And obviously it must fit the budget. They can do further degrees, for example, at the university, but that's not really the purpose of the whole thing. And for that, they need to find their own funding. The mentorship I've discussed as well. It will be contracted and it's not paid for. There's no funding for that. SANBI can assist with training as well.